Hi there, folks. My name is Phil Saldays, and I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to actually create my prototype for this particular assessment task. Video is basically going to cover two things. The first thing I'm going to do is show you the prototype itself, so actually talk about the design and the rationale behind it. But I also want to draw on the existing resource that I wanted to basically adapt this course from, because the materials used in this course are actually from my current place of employment. That being said, the deployment of the materials is in no way similar to the prototype I've developed. So my hope was to basically use the concepts that I've learnt in this particular unit and see whether or not there can be improvements made to the learning resources and the learning experience for our students. So what we're looking at here is the completed H5P interactive book for this particular cohort, and essentially what we have here is the title page where the students will go into. The thing to note before I get going is I deliberately intended this to not be LMS specific. So when you go into my rationale for why I've chosen this, I talk a little bit about the previous materials being quite segmented in that the learning resources, activities and discussion board were separate elements in the LMS, and I really wanted to hone in on one of the beautiful things that H5P can do with iframes and integration. Okay, so when we're in the H5P book, we have a table of contents here, which is deliberately intended to sort of break down the elements leading up to the collaborative task here. So there are two learning objectives for this design. The first one is to get students to understand barriers to study and how they can overcome them. And the next learning objective is to be able to work collaboratively to sort of solve some of those barriers to overcome study. So the original resources are quite text heavy, and I'm going to show you that in just a moment. And so I decided to place a few things such as accordions to basically give a little bit more control back to the learner. So to sort of stymie the information and choose when they wanted to see things. So the first interactive activity I created was a drag and drop, and it basically covers the types of learning that they would have just learnt about in the previous section. So as you can see here, there's 4 types of learners that I've allocated and a couple of examples that they can drag and put into the correct box. And then when they've done this, they can check their answer to see if they've sort of hit the nail on the head. Moving on to that, on the next section, I've got the characteristics of adult learners, and I've used a hotspot. So the idea with this hotspot is to, again, give the information a little bit of concealment before the learner engages with the task, just to see if the learner actually understands these concepts and they want to check it. So again, in my rationale for this, I've looked at the literature behind hotspots and where this can be applied as well. The next 2 sections are more about just getting the content across to the student. I didn't want to do too much in the way of too many interactive activities here due to the scope of this assignment. I really wanted to focus on the collaborative task. So again, it's about getting the student to understand the concepts behind adult learners and barriers to study. So in this instance here, managing stress, and obviously I've included a video there for the students to watch. So all of this leads into the actual collaborative task, which is a Padlet. And one of the beautiful things for H5P, and one of the reasons I've used it, is that you can iframe all of these sorts of activities from the cloud into a seamless integration. So you note here that the actual learning has taken place within the book, and the activity for the students to complete, even though it's in Padlet, it's within this H5P. So this task is asking students to basically post a barrier to study in the Padlet, and I've done a lot of scaffolding here because this particular cohort of students is not only exclusively online, but they also are starting the course at different times. So it's very difficult in this instance to actually group the students and to get timely feedback. So I needed to think about the task itself as being one that doesn't require a timely response. It's meant to be a gentle introduction into collaborating with peers, but it doesn't rely on that information in order to progress. So it's really about getting the students to post their barriers up here, and if they can, contribute to another student's barrier, as stated here. So I then want to show you how the resources originally looked and sort of a bit of the rationale behind why I wanted to choose this. So if I go to the course itself, it was originally laid out in a PDF, and I'll just go to the relevant section here, where we talked about adult learners, and again, very text heavy, lots of text for the learner to read. This is the particular example I turned into a hotspot. And as you can see here, this is where I was putting the drag and drop for these, the drag and drop for these particular learners. So I wanted to introduce some interactivity into this content. When it came to the activity itself, if I go down to here, the original activity basically got the people to go and look about examples of support for the learners, but then just to simply write their barriers into a text field in a PDF. So there's no collaboration with this activity, hence why I wanted to see whether this particular component could be adapted and changed to be more fit for purpose for asynchronous learners. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy the remainder of my assignment, and I hope to see you all in the future. Thank you.